Alrighty. What's going on, my man?
What's happening?
Oh, well, another day. Yeah. Listen, we want to welcome you to Freddie O Live, where, again, we are discussing topics on reachable reconciliation, learning how to have the conversations that we would not normally have in an effort to make sure that we don't bypass the people that are within our reach. My guest today is my man Chris Cox, who is a director of Back to Back Ministries, one of the
Cincinnati.
Back to Back Cincinnati. Great friend and a lover of God, lover of people, lover of students, and also on staff at Cincinnati Christian University. Yep.
Adjunct professor there. Yep.
Adjunct professor. Good. So welcome. Glad to have you here, man, and love this guy to death. Hey, listen. Normally I'd start off with a story, but today I'm reminded of one of the movies that it's one of my favorites, right? Yeah. So I watch movies all the time. I probably watch a movie every night. I really do. Don't ask me why. That's just the way I kind of settle down. But there's this movie, Crash, that took place, years ago, right? And in this movie, Crash, it's about people who have these preconceived perceptions and stereotypes and assumptions that they make about other people based upon their nationality, their skin color, and their economic status, and really just based upon their natural thoughts on what they perceive and think about somebody else. Yeah. And the movie is brilliant because, not until each individual is forced to crash into the other person do they realize that there is true value in somebody else that we didn't even know, right? Which leads us to our topic today. We're going to be talking about the elephant in the room, right? The elephant in the room. And when I think about that as it relates to the movie Crash, like Sandra Bullock, okay, she's one of the key people in the movie. And Sandra Bullock has all these preconceived thoughts and perceptions. Yeah. So from whether it's the white female maid that works for her, whether it's Ludacris and Lorenz Tate, that she grabs her purse because she thinks as soon as she sees them, she thinks she's going to get robbed, right? Two black guys. Which, by the way, happens to me every now and then. I'm just saying, I'll be walking in the park.
People try to grab your purse?
No, listen, I'll be in a parking lot walking, and somebody else from mainstream society, I'll say that, they'll see me walking, and all of a sudden they'll grab tight to their purse. I'll be like, I don't want your purse. Okay, that's another whole story. I just want to let you know.
But that's crazy because that is never once happened to me.
I wonder why. I wonder why. And so, let me finish the story.
But that's the elephant in the room, right?
That's true. So Sandra Bullock, even in those two scenarios, even in the Hispanic guy that was fixing her lock, you could tell in the movie when you're looking at her eyes and you can see the thinking going on in her head that she has these thoughts already in her brain, as people do today. And rather than her, for instance, saying it to her maid, hey, here's what I think about you, she doesn't release it. And doesn't end up learning the value of her maid that she ends up calling her only friend at the end of the movie because she was forced to crash into her when she had nobody else there in her deepest point of need. So, as we transition into that topic, man, tell me what you think about that.
First, let me ask you a question back. Like, you're watching the movie Crash.
Yes.
List the emotions that you feel when you see, prior to these people like crashing into each other, when you're seeing the individual stories start to like work themselves out. You're hearing someone's thoughts like being spoken, or you're seeing it. What are you feeling as the watcher as you're watching this?
That's a good question.
This woman.
And here's why it's a good question, because I can be real. I am actually connecting with each and every scene. Because I too, even in this reachable reconciliation, I still have my own preconceived thoughts.
Right.
So I'm looking at it, I'm like, I've done that. Yeah. I'm looking at another scene. I actually have thought that about that kind of person. Now, I may not respond based on the way that I'm thinking, but the fact that I've thought it means that everybody has some kind of thinking in that.
Right, and that's the key to a great movie, right?
Right.
Is that it pulls these ideas that people are thinking but not saying.
Yeah.
Works them toward a climax.
Yeah.
And then we see some type of resolution.
That's right.
And we see it. So what we see is this illustration of these things that are happening that nobody's talking about.
Yeah.
Elephants in the room.
Elephant in the room.
That then we come to some type of conversation and go, they're actually going to deal with it. They're either going to talk about it. She's going to end up so alone that she has to call it out and she has to connect with her maid, or we have in, whatever the movie is that you have in, we have to reconcile. We have to go back and forgive. We have to have the good guy beat the bad guy. Like all of these things are about all of this stuff that is happening in the background that then we bring it to the forefront and then we wrap it up in a nice little bow and give you some credits at the end and you feel good. Right. Which is where it then leaves everyday life, because most movies address the same type of emotional connection, which is why I loved your answer, is that you say, I watched it and I'm in and I stay in because I can relate to every character.
Every character.
Even if it doesn't look like me, sound like me, or do the things to me, I still go, ooh, there's something about that character that I relate to. So I can relate to every character, which means that these platforms are talking about things that are really going on in our lives.
Yeah.
We're just missing the second half of the movie in our own lives. We don't work toward the climax of the movie. We don't resolve it, and the credits never roll for us. Yeah. We instead still live in the space often where the movie, like this, it's just the Groundhog's Day movie. It just keeps going. We just keep replaying the thing over and over and over.
I don't understand. I do and I don't, because I know it's, again, people's natural tendencies, so it's not necessarily that they're trying to do that.
Right.
But man, I sit in a room so many times, Chris, and I just watch the room, because I can look at people and watch how their brain is rolling, and I know how they're going to respond to the other individual. It could be a person of color, it could be a female, it could be, someone that's doesn't have the same economic status, whatever it may be. I watch how people do that.
But because we don't have to get to an ending to get people out of their seats and then go home.
You mean like a movie?
We don't intervene,
right,
and say, time out. I think I know what you're thinking right now.
Yeah.
And I think I know how it's influencing the space.
Yeah.
And the community that we're trying to build. Can we talk about it? And we don't pause because we don't necessarily have a thing that we're trying to get to.
Yeah.
Because we're not necessarily looking at the room the way you look at the room, which I've always appreciated. The way you look at a room is you're looking at the room to see how we can all be together.
Sure.
In the room. And so you're trying to size the room up and say what voice isn't being heard. And then you often step in and try to raise that voice into the space or bring it into the space. Sure. But we don't all naturally think that way.
Hey man, and that's true. And you have been an encourager, because it can be a lonely a lonely lifestyle, like that for me. But I always appreciate your encouragement in that, and that is why I'm glad we're here having this dialogue, because as an encourager, as someone who watches that, even about myself, help me, Chris, help others who are listening. What are some practical steps that we can share together to help others learn how to do that?
The first thing we have to do is we have to acknowledge that in every room that we walk in, there's probably an elephant in the room. Okay. There's probably some unspoken, preconceived idea that's happening in the space. Yeah. You can even take the most basic community of a small group, a church small group. Yeah. And there could still be an elephant in the room that if a stranger came in, I don't know how I would feel about it because this is my safe space. Yeah. It's an elephant in the room. We're not talking about it. Yeah. We don't come in every week and say, I think we should keep this small because this is my safe space. And I don't think we should invite anyone in. And I really don't want to be evangelistic in this space because this is my safe space. Sure. But there is a preconceived notion that if someone brought a friend, we would go, wait a minute, I didn't know that you were going to bring her here. Yeah. You didn't ask my permission, and I'm not sure how I feel about this right now. Why? Because I didn't tell you that this was my safe space, that I wouldn't want anyone else to come in, but now I've got this thing in the room that might be there. And you could take it to the greatest aspects of your life, where you bring in someone from a different background into your family. Like, I have an interracial marriage with my sister and her husband.
Yeah.
And that integration into our family helped me recognize, man, there are some elephants in this space.
So it's recognizing if they're real or not.
And first you have to just acknowledge that there are probably perceived, imaginary, real elephants in every room that we're going to walk in.
Right.
And then we have to figure out whether or not the elephants are real.
Yeah.
Because what I found over time is that there are spaces that I've walked into where there are some imaginary elephants.
Right. Right.
And we come into the space,
right,
and we believe that there's something in the middle of the room that we shouldn't talk about. We have to dance around.
And let me pause you there. And that's, again, having conversations that we wouldn't normally talk about. I got to tell you, and others who are listening, that's okay, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's non-negotiable. It's not even okay. It's non-negotiable.
Yeah.
If we don't have conversations about questions that we have, about things that we don't understand, things that we haven't experienced, how do we learn?
That's right.
I can't learn anything about something that I don't ask a question about, and I can't know what I don't know.
Right. I mean, we come into life and we grow, but our growth is based on the environments, the settings, the family structure, all the interactions that we've had over our life. And so it's just our natural response to things based upon the surroundings we've been in. But like you said, so okay, that's fine, but here's where we got to go now.
And it might be an absolutely imaginary elephant, right?
That's right.
Case in point, right? So my sister is engaged to a black man.
Watch out there now.
Right?
Watch out there now.
And I have a family member who is absolutely just a mess about it. A mess about it, man.
I'm sure they are.
I mean, just a mess about it. Right?
Hey, and let me keep it real. It's the same on the black side too, man. Because they be like, I can't believe. Okay.
Yeah, I performed the wedding, and it was definitely an interesting room, right?
Yeah.
And here I am standing in the middle, wondering, like, what do we need to address? And my family member, when I talked to him, I said, like, what is your struggle?
Yeah.
What is keeping you from this? Because this is not okay, and I'm coming at you to talk about it. Because here's what's going to happen: my sister and her fiance are going to get married.
Right.
You don't get a choice about that. What we can do is decide whether or not we want to get this elephant out of the room so that we can have community together.
Sure.
Or you're going to let this elephant stay in the room and keep us from ever having real community. So
good.
Here's the elephant.
Good.
You're a racist.
Good. Is that what you said?
That's exactly what I said.
Wow.
And he said, I am not a racist, but what I know is that black men leave their wives.
Oh, wow.
Imaginary elephant.
Yeah.
Because when I looked at him, I was like, do you want me to introduce you to the white men that I know that have left their wives?
Right.
Some of your best friends have done. He's like, oh. But it's different. How's it different?
And that's what people think. Yeah.
How's it different? Well, that's all I got. Because there's no elephant there. It's not real.
Yeah.
It's fake.
That's good.
But what happened is when he had to talk about it.
Yeah.
When he was actually, like, even when there was a rational conversation of saying, here are our white friends, yours and mine, who have left their wives.
Yeah.
Are they better or worse than the black men who have left their wives?
Right.
He's like, I don't like either. So we don't like people who leave their wives.
Right.
Is that what you're saying? And he's like, I guess so.
So it's good.
What's that have to do with this relationship? And he's like,
I love it.
I just don't like. So then what happened? That's where it ends up like you are afraid of something that you've never talked about and you've never experienced, and you're afraid.
Sure.
of something else.
Yeah.
And that led down a line for him.
Absolutely.
Of what he was afraid for my sister in, and what he was afraid for the relationship, and what he was afraid for both sides condemning them on, and the pressure, and like all of these other things. And some of those elephants were real in the room that we then got to talk about. But the first one, I was like, this is not real. This is not a real thing. This is a human thing. Yeah. But this is not a real thing in this relationship. And when we acknowledge imaginary elephants, the only thing they can do is disappear. Yeah. That's their only option. Yeah. One of my favorite stories that Jesus tells is in Matthew 5. He says, "You have heard it said, love your neighbor and hate your enemy. Yeah. But I say to you, love your neighbor and your enemy." Absolutely. What I love about that study is when I look in the Old Testament, God never said hate your enemy. Yeah. It was an imaginary elephant in the room. Absolutely. It had been created by people who didn't really know what God had said. And so they built this thing of like, so here's the thing, we're not allowed, like if you're not Israel, if you're not with us, you're against us. And so they created this thing that didn't exist. And so Jesus just simply by acknowledging it, he said, you've heard it said, but this isn't real. Yeah. It just has to go away. Wow. And now he comes up with a statement of saying, I say both, love your neighbor and your enemy. And what can happen? Now I can have community with both in the space because the elephant is gone. Yeah. Which is a principle that should be applied to all people. Right, all people, right? And all people. And it doesn't matter. I mean, obviously, we'd love for all to be Christians, but I'm saying for all people, all settings. Yeah, right. Right? Because it's one of those principles, which is what I love about most of his teachings, that it's like, it's just right. It's just right. You're just going to live longer and happier, right? So 2 years ago, I'm in a mosque with my friend Joe. Yeah. And Joe takes me into a mosque, and and some of our Muslim friends were under attack. And it was just this space, and we thought as believers, because I'm a follower of Jesus, and as that, we thought the best thing that we could do is walk into this space and say, you may believe that Christians are against you right now. We're not. We're sorry that you have to go through some of this too. Yeah. And when we walked into the space, the teaching by the imam in the room was this: you have heard it said by Allah, to love your neighbor and hate your enemy. Oh, wow. But what is okay is to love your neighbor and to give an eye for an eye. But what is better is to love your neighbor and to love your enemy. That was the teaching in the room. Wow. In a mosque. That's amazing. And we're looking at each other going, like, I wish the world knew like what we were hearing, because there's a belief system. There are elephants in the room around religions. There are elephants in the room around races. And unless we have a dialogue with one another, we can't speak the imaginary ones out of existence. Yeah. So we have to get together. And it's killing us, man. It's killing us. And we have to have the questions. But unless I walk into that mosque, and unless I sit through a teaching, I don't have a clue that what this imam is saying and what Jesus are saying are matching in this space, and that we can walk out and say, that was powerful teaching. That sounds a lot like Jesus. And his response was, that's actually where I got it. I love Jesus as a teacher, and I read that. Right. That's good. And elephant goes away. Love it, man. Love it. Chris, man, we don't want to tie up all the time, because we can certainly come back and do a part 2. So we've talked about the ones that aren't real, right? Yeah. Let's talk about the elephants that are real, right? Yeah. What do we do with the ones that are real? Yeah, this is the harder space, right? This is the one that when an elephant is real in a room, if you can imagine it, right? They're called elephants in the room because they are big. Right. Because they take up all the space. Because there's no room for anything else to happen. And they can crush you. Yeah. Right? So a real elephant in the room can do all of those things. Yeah. It can take up all the space. Wow. Yeah. And that kills community immediately, right? Like you can't have community when there's something else taking up all the space. And we take words, I know this is, kind of going off on a tangent. Yeah. We take words like community as if everybody knows what that means. And so we use it a lot in the Christian language. Could you just kind of define the benefit or what you mean by community, even if it's just one-on-one, Yeah, whether it's one-on-one, team, family, friends, relationship, work, all of that that space. Community is giving, to me, it's an equal give and receive of equality for humanity. That's good. Okay. Right?
Yep.
So community to me is that we're sharing this space.
Yeah.
We're going to share this space together for a season. Maybe it's 6 months. Maybe it's the next 10 years because we're going to have careers together.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we're going to share this space together.
Yeah.
And it's going to be infinitely better if I treat you as equally human as you treat me.
Good.
And if both of our values of each other as human are being defined by this overwhelmingly crushing thing that's in between us, our value for each other is going to be significantly low.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be really painful in the room. And it's going to be really hard for us to acknowledge each other in the room because our relationship is defined by whatever's crushing us.
It's great, man.
And that thing's got to go in order for us to see each other equally, which if you look at, it doesn't really matter the demographic or which side of the demographic in the United States that you fall on right now. Yeah. We're in a significant season where we can't see each other because there are real crushing elephants in between us in the space. So people that I disagree with, I don't get to talk to them. I get to talk at them through the elephant.
Yeah.
And they hear me on the other side of the elephant.
Right.
So what they hear is probably not what I said.
Right.
So before I can build a relationship and an equality and create a space where everyone belongs, I got to get this stuff out of the room. Yeah.
And we do that how? By conversation, by acknowledging. I mean, who's going to take that step, you know?
Right.
Especially, and you may not be able to answer this, I'm just talking, especially if you're an introvert or if you're not a vocal person, you know. How do we even close that gap, you know?
Right on.
Yeah. And so, you know, hopefully the encouraging message for the elephant that is real is that, and I believe society is in this space right now, right? There's more separation and distance in society all the way across the board, you know, from race, cultures, backgrounds, whatever it may be. But I feel like there's a sensitivity that's stronger than ever in our society that really wants to break through that wall and learn something that they would not have normally embraced in years past.
When elephants don't leave the room on their own.
Yeah.
They can't get out. They're trapped. Right? They're too big for a door.
Yeah.
You're going to have to knock a wall down in order to get out. Yeah. The only way that we knock a wall down, introvert, extrovert, deep thinker, whatever, like however it is, the only way is if whatever is in that room has enough value to us that we see that we'll make the sacrifice to get this thing that's between us out of there. Good. So the first focus has to be on taking an inventory internally. Yeah. Taking an internal inventory on why am I in this room?
It's good, Chris.
And what is valuable to me here?
Yeah.
What do I see of value? And that can provoke the most introverted, quiet perspective to stand up and say, time out.
Wow.
This just isn't okay.
That's good.
This thing has to go away for all of us. We might not be friends at the end of this, but we'll never know until this thing goes away. And so first there is a self-inventory of asking the question, why am I here in this space? Yeah. And what is valuable in this space to me? And am I okay with watching this unspoken thing wreck everything in this room that is of valuable to me? You can think about marriages this way. You can think about parenting this way. You can think about interpersonal relationships at work or within culture or society. You can think about Facebook this way. You can think about any space that you're in, and you can ask those questions first of why am I here and what do I find valuable here? Wow. And then the next question that you have to ask is, what is the way out for this elephant? What wall do we need to walk down? And you need to name the wall that you're going to knock down. Is the wall reconciliation? So by extending reconciliation, does that knock a wall down into the room? Yeah. Is the wall unity? Is it an activity? Is it a service? Is it what is it? Is it your own self-discovery? Is it to say, the wall that has to come down? Yeah. Is that I don't know what I don't know, and so I need to just ask a question. Absolutely. And what's the wall? So each wall could be a different thing, and they often are different things. Some of them are rules, some of them are regulations, some of them are my past, some of them are trauma. Yeah. And you have to look and decide what are the walls of the room, and which one can come down. And that is one at a time. That is the one that needs to come down. So I'll take you back to, right, my family member.
Yeah.
When we got through the imaginary elephant, he had a real elephant there. What I found out was he was an older family member, grew up a couple generations ago.
Sure.
He grew up as a white boy in a town where, for the most part, all of the white men lived on one side of a railroad track. And all of the black men lived on the other side of the railroad track.
Sure.
He happened to be one of the few families that lived on the black side of the railroad track. But no one knew that because he was just on the edge. So he looked across the railroad track at these other white men and saw the success of their families.
Yeah.
And he longed for that. But every day to school, he would walk to school through this black neighborhood. And because he was white in that neighborhood, his story to me was he took a few beatings.
Yeah.
He took a few beatings on what some of these other white men had done to his friends' dads.
Sure.
And he would tell me those stories of the beatings that he took.
Yeah.
And so when he tells this story, he says, I don't trust.
Yeah.
Because no one on that side of the tracks ever acknowledged that I was on that side of the tracks too.
Wow.
They just saw me as the face of something else that was hurting them.
Chris, we're going to get ready to have to stop there. And I love the ending of that story. And in reconciliation, you're going to take some hits too, right?
Absolutely.
And I can honestly say that even on this course of my own journey, in trying to navigate in spaces where I may be only, right?
Yeah.
You take some hits, right? And that's where we are. But the hits are for a greater community, right?
Yeah.
Than we've seen in the days past. And so we may be coming back again.
I'll finish the story for you, right?
Finish the story. We're going to come back on a part 2.
Yeah.
But man, I think it was great content that you gave today, Chris. I really enjoyed having you. Listen, if anybody is interested in contacting you, just back to back or personally, they can at...
Yeah, you can email me, ccox@backtoback.org, or on all of the social media, it's at chriscox121, 121. And I think before we end, though, I know it's Thursday, but tomorrow is Friday. What's the date tomorrow?
Tomorrow's August 17th.
August 17th. And it's significant because... Why is it significant, Fred? Why is tomorrow significant?
I'm going to be 50!
50! My man is 50 years old tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, man.
You're watching this either live or you're going to watch it later. Send some love to my friend, Freddie O, because he has been investing...
Thanks, man.
...for... years and you have been doing this for a really, 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 really long time.
Thanks, man. Well, I want you to hold back on a really
long time. So I'm sure there are so many of us that you have influenced because you've been around for a minute.
Thanks, man.
But on the serious note, we've been knowing each other like 3 years, 4 years now. And it's been some of the best conversation and growing that I've had with you. So happy birthday, happy 50th, man. I hope it's really fun for you.
Thanks, brother. Much love to you. Listen, we hope you come back and join us for part 2. Please make sure that you share, this content with your friends on social media. We certainly want you to subscribe to the YouTube page. We want you to be a subscriber. You can also find the Patreon page. If you go on to Patreon and visit Reachable Reconciliation, you'll see some things there. And there's more to come. And I've had some great comments and feedback from others. So please know that all of the dialogues are not going to be all male. And they're not all going to be about black and white. We've got a great lineup of folks that will be coming in the days ahead. And we hope to see you there. Thanks a lot for being a part and listening. We love you. And feel free to reach out to us at any time because we care.